So before I joined this NSSTA family, I had heard about Buster Joyner, but you were something of a renegade at Ringler. You were just getting you're big, you're powerful, you were difficult. You're going to go from your own company. Is that a true story? The renegade part?
Good morning. So I'm not so sure. I mean, I would say yes, in the definition of a renegade from the powers to be at Ringler at the time. But I was just producing, and that was all. And so I was the largest producer at Ringler for 6, 7 years before I left, and Ringler was changing, and the industry was changing, and so I would say that the industry was changing, which caused things to change. So renegade, it's I think that's an easy term to say because I was different than what I think Ringler wanted at the time, and so that I would say probably that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, when I use the term renegade, I'm putting you in the group of people like Bruce Springsteen. So I consider it to be a moniker of unique accomplishment and ability. That's my point.
So yes, I do think that I was doing things differently, and so I think yes, I do think that I fit I fit that description.
Well, that's sort of it's an abrupt way to get started, Buster. But the reason I brought it up is that we're going to host a meeting, first in-person meeting in a fall meeting in 5 years in October at the University of Texas. And the theme of the meeting is expanding opportunities. And when we started figuring out what to put on the agenda, much of it centered in on the people in the industry who are making a difference, not just settling cases and making money, but making a difference with finding new and creative ways to create better and bigger and more opportunities for structured settlements. And that's how I look at you, because you've done that. So to some extent, you, President of NASTA at this time, it's a time of change, but it's also a time of incredible excitement and opportunity. What are your thoughts as we get ready for the fall meeting? And you're going to be the lead panel on that whole session celebrating our 40th anniversary.
Well, I do think that it's a really good time for the industry, not only for growth, but to continue to provide, what we do, and I think the fact that we're able to come together as a community again in Austin and celebrate not only the 40 years that we've accomplished together, which is a miracle, frankly. You've got a lot of strong personalities in this business, and a lot of people that think there's a certain way to go, and that's the only way to go. And but we've been able to cross the bridge together, and because there's so many different ways to succeed in this business. It's just almost infinite, and so it's the creativity. I think that and the hard work and the patience that I think is really critical to success. And just having the long view as opposed to just trying to score and which you can do in this business. But so I think the fact that we can get together and the education piece is what I'm really excited about. I'm 63 years old. I'll be 40 years in the business here in 27, and so I'm coming up on that. And what I'm really happy about is what you've done or what NASTA's done, and coming together with University of Texas, even though I'm a Bulldog, and to create a way for younger people to learn about our business. As opposed to just going to the school of hard knocks. I went to the school of hard knocks, and I've got many stories about trying to break into this business, and it's tough to break in, and it takes a long time, and it probably takes 3 years. to be able to build, a client. So you need support, you need education, and so I think that NASTA is not only, not only through protecting what we do, which is a vital importance, but also to be able to promulgate the future. And I think that's really, really critical. And I'm so happy that we're doing that in Texas, at the
You know,
University of Texas.
the Texas story and NASTA came together essentially because the University of Notre Dame decided to stop offering professional continuing education programs, our CSSC program. So they didn't sort of kick us out, but they simply said, we're not going to offer those kinds of programs anymore. So a group of industry leaders scoured the country, and the University of Texas came out on top. It is a fabulous institution, and one of the reasons we're going in October is so that more members of our industry can see what I've seen, what the CSSC committee has seen, what our graduates in the last couple of classes have seen. It's a first class professional institution that is dedicated to education, training, and focused in on our industry. I predict in the next couple of years, we're going to see an educational program offered at the University of Texas for undergraduates focused in on settlements, focused in on education and training for structured settlement industry leaders. So it's a powerful institution. It's going to be a great program for our industry.
I'm hopeful, this is my, year to be president, and I'll roll off, the NASTA leadership, role. And I'm hopeful that we continue to return annually to UT. I think, it's a constant reminder when you go of how important it is for education, and it allows people to come back that have attended the CSSC and MSSC to come back to where they learned about structured settlements for the first time. So I think it will, it would be, I think, a great legacy to start. And so we'll see.
You know, it's funny that we are allowed to go on the UT campus as long as the football team's not playing that weekend. Now, only Scotty Freeman could go to the University of Texas when they're playing. The rest of us have to wait until it's an off weekend, but it's going to be a good experience for all of us. You mentioned this is your year, NSSTA President. Do you have in your own looking at the board, the largest board we've ever had, 13 members, do you have your set of goals, objectives that you'd like to share with members? I know you've talked about it in your acceptance speech when we all got together earlier this year. And in the words, that was great. But do you have a couple of goals and objectives that you've focused in on that you see as your legacy and things that you'd like to leave behind when you step down as president?
Well, obviously, my number one goal was to try to unify the community into one trade association. I think it's of critical importance for us going forward. And so, Sage, has rejoined, and they're hopefully will become a permanent member. And to I think the history of structured settlements is critical, because there have been some mistakes that have been made, obviously, and the fact that we can learn from those mistakes and come together, with the knowledge that we had in the past and bring it forward. I think that's going to be critical for the next 40 years, and I think the only way to do that is to get together. So, people that think alike, okay, you know, they don't see the other side, and while that's all fine, we are in a contentious business, like it or not, and but to come together when people really don't see eye to eye, or don't but we have the problems exist for us all, and so we've got, if we don't come together in something that is critical, then I think that it imperils the future. And so I think it's really important for us to do that. And I think I think that hopefully everyone recognizes that, and and in the future will continue, and all will be members.
Well, you've said it before, and many of our board members echo your sentiments that we're stronger together. And that's not just a bumper sticker, it's true. I can tell you from firsthand experience on Capitol Hill, when you have multiple groups in an industry stating somewhat the same view or messages on Capitol Hill with members of Congress and with staffers, it creates confusion. Even if they're very similar messages, it creates confusion. Who do we listen to? Who do we want to support? And we did come together this big tax bill that just went through with the objective of protecting, promoting, defending our tax code sections. And we did a masterful job of that. We were left completely alone, but with an educated base in Congress that we've never had before. Every single member of the Ways and Means Committee, every single one understands and supports structured settlements. That's never been the case before. So coming together, being together, promoting what we do best in our industry together makes the most perfect sense.
Well, that's pretty incredible. But as I've said before, there are many ways to make a living in our business. But if we don't have the tax code and we don't have what we do for a living, then that opportunity doesn't exist for anybody. And so I think that that we need to just continue to understand that the reason we're here is to provide a method to help people move on with their lives. We're fortunate um, that we live in a place that allows us to be tax free. It's just a very generous, thoughtful, and kind thing that we do for people in need. And so I think that we need to acknowledge that and keep it sacred, if you will, for what we do. And then secondarily, think about what's best for each individual person as far as how they want to run their business, because as I said, there are lots of different ways to do it.
Just a few weeks ago, it seems like 5 months ago, but a few weeks ago, the Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Lots of changes to the tax code, some good, some bad, depending on your own perspective, but it's a massive bill. Before it passed, we had a chance to meet with some of the leading members of Congress. One of them, Senator Mike Crapo. He's the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. I got 10 minutes with his staff, and he popped his head in for 10, 15 seconds. Now, I'm going to make a lot of that 10, 15 seconds. But as he came in, he said hello. He said, "I'm really sorry, I've got to run, but I wanted to say hello, and I support structured settlements." His staffer said, "Senator, you have to know these people do a lot of really good work. They help 35,000 people, injured people, get their lives back together with economic security." And Mr. Crapo said, 35,000. Now, I don't know where he got that number. I think I may have said it at one point. But the point was, he didn't say there's $9.5 billion in premium. People are making a lot of money. That's not what he was focused on. It was on the people that you help. That's the golden sauce, because when you are helping someone, whether you settle one case in 10 or one case for the year, that person, that family, that's why the tax code provisions are the way they are. And that's why this industry has been around for 40 years.
That's excellent. I think that is so true. And we've all been fortunate to be a part of that, Eric. And obviously we've had our ups and downs, but the country has had their ups and downs. And so we sort of mimic what the country is going through right now. And but somehow, we find compassion, and are able to continue what we do. And that's incredible that our country and our leadership will continue to take care of the people that really need it. And that's really what we're talking about here.
To switch gears a little bit, and I love to toot this horn because it's not my horn and I can't play a horn, and it's Debbie Sinks, and it's NSSTA University. NSSTA University was born out of the idea that we stole, quite frankly, from Ringler University and others in the industry. It's the idea of having a platform where you can go to the state's departments of insurance and others and get credentialed to offer up educational programming that our members develop and that they can then use to educate attorneys, claims officials, and others. Just this past couple of weeks, I'll be off my numbers a little bit, not too much. Arcadia offered up a series of programs for claims officials, and they had almost 800 claims officials coming to a NSSTA University sponsored event where credits are made available and educational programming is presented to claims officials across the country. This is a monstrous opportunity to educate and promote structured settlements to some of the most vital people dealing with our industry, claims officials, defense attorneys, plaintiff attorneys, and others. It's been an amazing story so far, and it's only about to get better.
Tell you what, that is something that is very worthwhile, and something we should continue to do. I was not aware of that, but I think, you know, that I think that the claims officials, the leadership of the defendants, if you will, the insurers, I think that they recognize what we do. Because of the past, they've put in, some restrictions on where the money flows for security reasons, and I think that there's a rationale behind that. But as you will continue to just educate and deal with what we call approved list, but that's because of the history of where we are, and there's a reason for that, but I also recognize the reason that retail and choice and all of that provides, and so that's something that we will deal with as a group, but as far as the education, obviously, the past 40 years, when you talk about our tenure, and our really beginning, our origins were with defendants, and so how that's evolved over time, and how our business is now plaintiff and defendant, but I think that the claims organizations, they're turning over also, and they have younger people, and they don't know the history that we know, and they don't know why there's a approved list, and they really can't answer that, and then they rely on counsel, and so counsel doesn't really have the history of our, they're doing other things, they're litigating, going to school, and so the fact that we're able to, and this again going right back to the importance of University of Texas, and what we're offering through these programs and our continued use of this program, is to try to educate why these things exist and why we're doing it this way and not a different way. And if there's a different way, then let's talk about it. So like a non-threatening type of evolution. And so I think the only way we're going to achieve this is by being together. The perfect forum for that is in an educational setting, and so I just think that this is just a wonderful direction that we've chosen to go.
Well, I don't want to give anybody in particular a shout out, but I will shout out Brian Farrell. Brian, I believe, holds the current record for the number of NSSTA University, and I'll call them lunch and learns, that he's developed the educational program. Debbie Sink has produced the platform, and the lawyers that come to these events, it's in the hundreds. I mean, almost 300 Brian has done. And this doesn't cost you much of anything to do this. NSSTA University is a service we provide to our members, and it's something that every single one of our consultants ought to be taking advantage of. But we're not just stopping with our current members and the current educational programs. We're about to announce, and Debbie's going to shoot me because we're not quite ready to do this, but an educational program for mediators across the country. They have an association, and we're working with them on developing an educational training program that our members can present to mediators why a structured settlement needs to be considered. What are the value propositions and what are the issues you need to be aware of? It's got a brand new opportunity for our industry, and it could be an exciting new development.
Again, just think that's just a wonderful, thing to do. The mediators, again, they're the same way. So they need education. They've learned this through just being around. So osmosis, if you will. And, they weren't in the business. So many were lawyers and judges. And so they don't really know the ins and outs of structures. They just know what people want. And then let other people, figure that out and, try to promote that. But, I think the really good mediators, I think, do recognize this as a tool, as a solution. It's a present value solution that helps at a critical time of negotiation, as well as the security for the family. And so I think they would be grateful, and I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
So I think as the result of all the work that's been done over the years to promote structured settlements and educational opportunities through NSSTA University with all the state departments of insurance across the country, the NSSTA University reputation has become stellar. And that's all due to Debbie Sink and her team and what they've done with this. But we're now recognized by all 50 states as a qualified educational provider. And it's something that you don't just go out there and plop $10 down and get that certification. You've got to work at it, you got to earn it, and you've got to perpetuate the effort day in and day out with all of those departments. And Debbie's done a fabulous job with creating just that climate for us all across the country.
Well, there's no question, Debbie. The fact that we have sort of off the shelf type of programs that we can utilize and provide CE and CLE credits already done. These programs can literally take a year if to do it yourself, and it takes time, effort, and money to do that. And many times they come back and ask questions. You have to redo that. But to have one, a sort of library of off the shelf type things that literally can be modified as well to your own, what you're trying to achieve. The fact that these are readily available, it's just an incredible service to the membership. And Debbie, thank you for that. And the fact that people will is connected now to the higher learning of the University of Texas, the CSSC and MSSC, is also just a wonderful sort of agenda to have, and to have these available. So continue. And we'll just continue to build the library and offer educational opportunities for all, because that's the answer to the growth of this business.
So, a couple of years ago, Len Blonder, after all the years he's been in the industry, went to the University of Texas. And after 4.5, 5 days of grueling education, training, professor interaction, Len earned his CSSC. And one of the things, I'm not just picking on Len, I'm highlighting that you're never too old to go back to college and to learn something new and better and different about your own industry. And I'll speak for Len because I think he told me this. Part of the joy of the CSSC program is getting to meet with, be with, surrounded by young, middle-aged, older people in our industry for several days at a time. You grow attached to them. It is really hard to argue with somebody on a case, maybe get mad at them on a case after you've spent 5-6 days on a university campus studying, working, competing for that CSSC certification. So we encourage all of our members, take a look at the program. This is not your granddad's CSSC program anymore. It's fabulous. And Robin Young, Pat Hindert, Susan Bowersox, Jackie Mercer have put together an absolutely first-rate, first-class CSSC program and MSSC program. I encourage everybody to take time, look at the program, and join us next year at the University of Texas for that program.
I second that 100%. And I'm glad Lynn was able to get that program. I mean, they probably didn't have the final tests like they do now. So
we've got something better. I mean, it's the test was and is regarded for what it is, 140, 150 multiple choice tests that took up most of Sunday morning. That's gone. It's replaced by a case study. And Robin Young developed this case study. And it's, first of all, it's ingenious. And secondly, it is complex and incredibly challenging to anybody to work through that case study. If you think about what a paper might look like when you're taking a case study, reviewing it, evaluating it, and submitting it, because you need to, and they're reviewed and evaluated by a team of our industry leaders. One of those CSSC case study submissions was 172 pages long. It was fabulous. And my point is not because it was long, because it was so detailed in its orientation. So we replaced an exam that I think had its value at one point in time with this case study model. The case study is fabulous. And again, Robin did an enormously powerful job putting that together. But our industry is developing an enormously powerful engine for the future to explain, enhance, teach the best way to manage a case and using the case study model we've developed.
I have never sat through the CSSC or MSSC, so that's something I think I'll have to do. So when I hang my
Yeah,
hat up,
I brought it up, Buster, thinking that you hadn't done that. And I thought maybe, I don't know, 2026 is coming up, might be a good time to consider.
I think so. I think
Maybe.
so. And
This last
I would love to see to be part of the class and to meet the new people that are coming into the business. I think it'd be a ton of fun. And when 468B comes up, I'll just keep my mouth shut.
So this past week here in Washington, and everything in Washington is political, but this past week, about half a dozen industry leaders came to Washington to help the American Association of People with Disabilities celebrate the 35th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. As you know, I'm on the board of directors of the AAPD, but Jeff Kissel, Kathy Martin, Christy Freed, Rich Regna, Patty Nelson. God, I'm skipping somebody. I'm trying to think. We're all here for the event. We had dinner, and then we had a meeting with about 1,000 leaders of the disability community. We were the co-sponsor of the event. It didn't cost us 6 cents. We were a co-sponsor because of our support for the AAPD over the years. And maybe one of the best pieces of news that came out of last week is Michael Goodman of NFP Settlements was named unanimously as the newest member of the AAPD Board of Directors. So our industry and the AAPD and the disability community, our strength together is just getting stronger and I think more valuable every day. But congratulations to Michael Goodman on this prestigious honor.
Yes, congratulations, Michael. You've been a true leader for this organization, and you'll be a great input to the board there. So congratulations.
So Michael gets added. I probably get booted off, but I think my time is up with the AAPD anyway. It's been a great opportunity to be of service to that group and to participate with some industry leaders in the disability community across the country. We also met with Sally Greenberg, the head of the National Consumers League. Sally and I are working on a future program for consumers on the National Consumers League website and also their educational programming. And it's dealing with structured settlements, what you need to know. So Sally's been a great advocate and supporter of ours, and we're looking forward to developing that program with her. So we're going to wrap this up. We don't need to keep going. I'm sorry, burrowed you with a lot of questions and ideas. Do you have anything for me? And the reason I ask that is that you're my boss, and I'm supposed to be doing what you tell me to do. And I try, but is there anything you can think of that the NSSTA staff could be doing or that we are doing that we're not promoting, explaining to our members?
I really don't. I think you're on the best course, and I congratulate you for all of the years. You've been herding cats in a difficult time, and so I do like the direction that NASTA's going now. I think education, inclusion, is important. And I think, we're all, we're not going to, be in this industry forever. But I think if we can set the path, while we're here, and I think this path is the right one. I think that, providing, explaining what we do. It's very complicated. What we do is simple, but it can be very complicated. And to help people understand why we do it the way we do it, when it's a little, convoluted. I think that's helpful, and I think there's no better place to do it than NASTA. And so. I commend you for the past and the perseverance through all of this time and the effort and the hard work, both you and Debbie. And I do think that we're on the right path. I look forward to working with Brian going forward. I wish him all the luck, and I think there are some challenges ahead, frankly, and but that's no different than any other time. And I think that how we choose to meet those challenges, we'll I think NAST will be a part of that solution. And so
It's funny that we came through this version of major, massive tax reform, just as we did in 2017, in good shape, meaning we were left alone and promoted, protected. I mean, people aren't talking about us and know about us. The one area where it's frustrating for me, primarily as a lobbyist, because the ideas are so good, and yet the marketplace on Capitol Hill and in the agencies is so poor for considering new ideas. The idea of extending structured settlement opportunities or benefits to victims suffering with PTSD is something that we have focused enormous amounts of time and energy on. We've got a submission in right now to the Department of Treasury to be added to the priority guidance plan. Members of Congress are weighing in on our behalf. We've had a couple of really good meetings with Treasury and IRS, and we're seeking a new one with the new Assistant Secretary for Tax Policy, a man by the name of Ken Keyes, to try to move that forward. But we're finding that both Treasury and the IRS and quite a few people on Capitol Hill are not all that enthusiastic about making changing things, even if they might make things better. It's sort of the unknown. So they like what we do. They like your current tax code provisions. They like the idea that it's pretty well stable and set. They don't like the idea of change. And that's a difficult challenge for us. It just is.
Well, I think in this environment where where money is the key, right? So everyone's focusing on our debt, and what it costs for interest rates, or what it costs at the grocery store, and so there's only so much, um, so many things that we can provide, and I think there is there's a thought that we should try to maintain what we currently have. Okay, and if the opportunities come up, we can explain why something like PTSD will be good. Now, PTSD is not just a structured settlement issue; it's a settlement issue. It's a benefit in cash or periodic
Right.
payment, and so I think that effort, is would be is sort of simultaneous, and so while I think it's good for us to talk about structured settlements, it's probably the majority of PTSD would be in cash, because and so that's just something that we should just consider, just knowing, I mean, trying to provide tax-free benefits, that is a unique benefit that not many industries have. I mean, you've got life insurance on the internal buildup of whole life, probably is one of them, and that's they just really go out of their way to protect that, and it is a great benefit, in America, and so. So I do see the difficulties of trying to expand tax-free benefits. The humanitarian component of PTSD, I think, is there. I think it is obviously an illness that needs to be, dealt with. Hopefully, medicine and can reach the legislators to a point where PTSD is treated like a physical sickness. So we'll just have to see, jumping in where we can and help where we can. Our efforts so far, it's like this. You're probably right, but we've got bigger fish to fry. That's kind of the way was what I'm seeing. And and that's fine. That kettle of fish, provides a great benefit to our entire, citizenry, and so we'll just keep trying.
It's if you have a chance, I'll just broadcast a little bit. When we submitted the most recent proposal to the Department of Treasury, a couple of days later, tax notes, widely regarded, highly regarded source of information for tax professionals, government and private sector, featured an article, a high-profile article, highlighting our submission and highlighting the value of making this change for people dealing with PTSD. Rob Wood, one of the most respected advocates, lawyers in the nation on both the federal tax code and all things related to structured settlements, wrote up a fabulous article about the same thing in PTSD. I bring those up not to highlight those articles or to highlight Rob, who I think is great. It's just, I think we're making progress, and we're making progress the smart, right way, meaning we're getting more and more people talking about it, thinking about it, and considering the value of taking action. So we're going to keep at this. And John McCullough has done a fabulous job of keeping all of us focused on this. We're going to stay focused. We're going to see what we can do. And I predict we're going to have our meeting with a new Assistant Secretary for Tax Policy. John McCullough will be at that meeting to make sure our views and thoughts are well represented. And we'll see. We'll see if this is the sort of meeting that will make a difference. But we're going to keep pressing and pressing away at this.
Well, it just makes perfect sense to include PTSD in what we do. And so, we'll just keep at it, and we'll listen intently and see what their positions are, and we'll communicate that to all involved.
When we had and maybe wrap up with this, but we had a member forum in Chicago right after the NASTA board meeting recently in Chicago. And one of my favorite people in the whole world, Colin Finn with Alliant, was there. And Colin had a lot to say. And he's a smart young man. His point, though, was that we in our industry, in the industry, consultants and others, are arguing, fighting, battling over the same 8, 9, 9.5 billion in premium. That's your battleground. That's your fight zone. Why are we arguing and fighting about the other $490 billion that's in personal physical settlements, injury settlements? And his point is exceptional. The idea is you can argue on the basis of what you currently have and fight over that, and you will. You're all AAA plus personalities. How can we expand the field, the opportunities? And I think that's a challenge worthy of people like Colin Finn, and I hope people like Buster Joyner.
It's all education. PTSD is about education, and it's you got, it's complicated. You got healthcare. Lobby. It's a huge lobby. They're concerned about PTSD and whether it's in their, whether it should be included in their healthcare, benefit payments. So it's just a very complicated. That issue is very complicated. It's not as simple as what we would want it to be, because for us, it's simple because it should be included. Why isn't it? Well, there's a lot of reasons it's not, and so we just need to, educate, find out more about it, educate, and be there when the time comes. And so I think in order to grow this business, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be good at it. And then when that opportunity comes where growth is at hand, you need to be able to take advantage of it. And that's what NSSTA is.
Well, our among our allies, friends, people that we work with here in Washington, there's probably no one, no organization that's better positioned to appreciate and utilize structured settlements than the American Association for Justice, the trial attorneys. And we meet often to talk about issues on the Hill. They're very enthusiastic and open to new, expanded educational opportunities. And the idea is it's as perfectly clear as the nose on your face. It's right there. How can we help more trial attorneys, more judges, more mediators, more claims officials better appreciate what we do? The way we do it, education, training. And the people who are going to be doing the education and the training aren't the lobbyists. It's not me, Buster. It's the people in our industry. It's the leaders in the industry who will take the time out of their enormously busy schedules and participate in the education process.
I mean, let's just bring up factoring real quickly. So factoring.
I thought we were going to get through a whole hour without talking about factoring.
Well, that's it's an example is factoring, and so it's not what we do, but yet it affects us all, and so on our survey, factoring is an important part to all of our members, and so we just need to try to make factoring as good as it can be. I mean, factoring is here. It's federal law, and so we just need to try, the best we can as an industry to protect the people that factor. And the only way to do that is through education and through try to limit usury interest rates. And so life companies can provide that themselves. Berkshire did it. Allstate did it at some point, or the people that are secondarily in the market can do it. And so the education is you educate the states and the legislators as to what this is, and no, they don't really know. So we're trying to do that. We're trying to do this through a fund that's led by people that actually know about factoring. I didn't know much about it when I joined and learning. Um, but I think that's just an example of where education and listening and knowledge and can provide reasonable solutions to move forward.
And it's called the Fair Factoring Fund. It was your initiative. You've got a couple of leaders in the industry taking the lead on it. And our members are going to start to see more and more information coming out about this. And it's getting started right now. So congratulations to get that off and running.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to this being a successful venture and with NSSTA.
I don't know if she's still on or was on, but I had a chance to communicate a little bit with Sally Barnes, who lives in Kerr County, Texas, where that devastating flood killed so many people. I asked Sally about ways to help, and she told me there's something called the Community Foundation. My wife and I have already made a contribution to the Community Foundation, and we're going to reach out to all our members and ask. And I know it's hard because there are so many calamities and messes and terrible destruction around the country. Sally and her family live in Kerr County. They have family and friends who were killed, homes destroyed in that flood. And not just because of Sally, but because these are family and friends of ours as an industry. We ought to be trying to help. And so we'll send out word and information about the Community Foundation in Kerr County, Texas. And if you can help them out, please do so. Buster, it's been great to see you. Took a lot of your time away from a busy Wednesday, but great to see you. And looking forward to our board meetings coming up and the fall meeting in Texas. If we haven't encouraged people to come to Texas for that meeting after this, I'm not sure what else we can do.
Thank you, Eric. It's a real pleasure. And I appreciate everyone listening.